a dark cloud of impending doom. Oh yeah, and what are you gonna do about it? Soldier, you gonna tell me about more medical miracles? Jack froze, but then he remembered a lie Larry had told the giant earlier in the evening about Jack having a steel plate in his head from a daring rescue mission in Vietnam. I'm gonna let you walk away, Jack said, his voice surprisingly steady, his eyes locked on the giant's. Because if I hit you, my doctor says the vibrations might crack the sidewalk and I'd have to pay for the repairs. I'm a man of peace, but I'm a man of very heavy peace. The giant, confused and genuinely intimidated by Jack's sudden, quiet intensity, actually muttered an apology and backed away. Jack, you were incredible, Chrissy cheered, throwing her arms around him. Jack leaned against the bar, his knees finally giving way. Wasn't I? I'm a hero, a cowardly, shaking, terrified hero who really needs to sit down now. Chapter 9, The Missing Rent. The final crisis of the month was a true classic, The Missing Rent Money. $300, collected diligently over for weeks of scrimping and saving, kept in a plain white envelope on the kitchen shelf. It's gone, Jonna whispered, her face pale as a ghost. Jack, the envelope is gone. The radio is still here, but the money has vanished into thin air. Burglars, Jack shouted, grabbing a rolling pin from the drawer. I knew we should have locked the door instead of just trusting the vibe of the building. They called the police. A weary detective arrived, looked at the lack of forced entry, and gave them a look that suggested he'd seen this show before. $300 in an envelope marked rent in an unlocked apartment in Santa Monica. You kids are either faking this for a rent strike, or you're the reason they put warning labels on shampoo. We're not faking it, Chrissy cried, her eyes wide with sincerity. We're just trusting. We believe in the goodness of people. The detective left, convinced it was an insurance scam. The roommates were in absolute despair. They were a month behind, and Stanley Roper was coming for the money at 6 o'clock, and he wasn't known for his leniency. We'll go to the pub, Jack suggested, already packing a small bag. We'll hide in the cellar. He can't evict us if he can't serve us the papers, right? That's not how the law works, Jack, Jonna groaned, burying her face in her hands. They tried everything. Jack even went to his college's financial aid office to ask for an emergency loan, spinning a heartbreaking tale about his 2-week, dependent, starving roommates. You live with 2 girls, the administrator asked, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. In the same unit. Together? It's the 70s. Man, Jack argued, trying to sound like a revolutionary. It's a lifestyle choice, a communal experiment in harmony. It's a no on the loan, the man replied, stamping a document. Your father makes $6,000 a year. In our eyes, you're an aristocrat. Go ask your butler for the rent. At 6 o'clock sharp, the door burst open. Stanley and Helen walked in, Stanley looking uncharacteristically triumphant. "All right, nobody move," Stanley yelled, as if he were making a bust. "I'm not here for the rent." "You're not?" Jack asked, clutching his suitcase like a shield. "Are you here to tell us the building is being demolished? Because that would actually be a relief." "No, I already took the money." The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the shag carpet. "What?" Janet asked, her voice trembling. "Yesterday," Stanley explained, looking annoyed by their confusion. "I came up to fix the sink which, by the way, is still leaking. I saw the envelope marked rent, so I took it. You think I'm gonna leave cash lying around where any common crook could find it? I'm protecting you from yourselves." You didn't leave a receipt, Mr. Roper," Chrissy pointed out. "We thought we were robbed. We had the police here." Jack almost hit a detective with a rolling pin. "I did leave a receipt. It's right here in my book." Stanley fumbled with his pocket, pulling out a yellow carbon copy. "See, received from 201, 300 Bones. I'm a professional, even if you kids are amateurs." Helen rolled her eyes, leaning against the doorframe. "He forgot to give you the copy because he was too busy peeping at the blonde in 107 through his binoculars. I was checking the migration patterns of the local seagulls," Stanley snapped. Jack, Johnny, and Chrissy slumped onto the sofa together, a mixture of profound relief and simmering fury washing over them. They weren't robbed. They weren't being evicted. They were just living in a world managed by Stanley Roper, where logic was a foreign concept. "Well," Jack said, looking at his roommates and letting out a long, shaky breath, "since we're not homeless, who wants the rest of the Jimmy cake? I think that my part is the tastiest." "Me," Chrissy said, her smile returning. "As long as Jack doesn't cook anything else for at least 48 hours, Shauna added, finally leaning back and closing her eyes. Outside, the Santa Monica stars twinkled over the palm trees, and the sound of the ocean continued its timeless rhythm. In apartment 201, the lights stayed on, the laughter eventually returned, and for one more night, the three of them knew that no matter how chaotic the world became, they had each other, and in the mid-70s, that was more than enough. Chapter 10, The Monday Morning Fog. The morning after the rent fiasco brought with it a thick, gray Santa Monica fog that seemed to mirror the collective grogginess of apartment 201. The sun was a pale, struggling disk behind a curtain of mist, and the only sound in the apartment was the rhythmic drip of the leaky kitchen sink that Stanley had supposedly fixed. Jana was the first to emerge from her room, her hair in a messy bun, wearing a thick terry cloth robe. She looked at the Jimmy cake sitting on the counter, now little more than a pile of crumbs and a smear of blue icing, and sighed. The adrenaline of the previous night had vanished, leaving only a dull ache in her temples and the dawning prospect of a full day at the flower shop.